Andrew Bohn doing
is to take a much longer time path.
Masters HQ workout 26.1, 4 rounds per time and a 22-minute time cap, 20 calorie row, 30 wall balls, 20 double dumbbell step-ups.
You will pay down all of the biggest risks within this business, and you pay it down doing the one thing that the rest of your competition won't do, just be patient and deliver. Which brings us naturally to number 4. I wanted to make a quick comment about sass and ass. There we go, sass and ass. So, what is the shape of this business, and why is it this shape? So, software starts the slowest because you have to put a lot of capital in, you have to put people together, and you have to have people code for extended periods of time, not really sure if people actually even like the thing, and if they do like the thing, how long does it take for it to actually do all the functions that you have in your mind for it. And so this takes, in the beginning, not that long ago, it took many years, and it still takes time now, even with the vibe coding world. I've yet to see a truly vibe coded from A to Z business that is like $100 million a year. And we had a conversation with Amjad, who's Replit CEO, one of the key, I think they're 150 million or something like ARR in a very short time period. We had a conversation about people who use Replit to vibe code software. And interestingly, I think he mentioned 1 or 2 examples, and they have like lots and lots and lots and lots of customers of like $1 million businesses, $2 million businesses that use the vibe coded software. And so I think that it is getting better and better. Is it there yet? I think it has struggled to have the robustness of, I'll just call it manual or human-based software, but I think that will get fixed in time and probably relatively quickly. But for right now, it still does take time. It takes years to make a truly good product that is also scalable. So sure, maybe you can sell it to a handful of people, but can it support 1 million users? Not currently, the vibe coding will. But it's shaped this way because, taking out vibe coding for a moment, once you do have product market fit, the way that Y Combinator describes this is that getting product market fit is like pushing a boulder up a hill, and once you have it, it's like getting chased by the boulder on the other way down, right? Is that you are chasing after this because you have so much more demand than you can even handle, and like the wheels come flying off. So it's shaped this way because it's hard to build a good product. Engineering is, especially good engineering, is incredibly expensive. You have to front that capital because you have no income. But think about this. The rest of these businesses, you can get pretty close to bootstrapping. SaaS, the reason there is such a big venture capital industry is because it costs money, millions of dollars to get the level of talent required to make great products in engineering, and you have to front that for like a year, sometimes 2 years, before you even turn $1, right? And definitely not enough dollars to make it profitable. And so you have this very long, very unprofitable runway. And so as a result of all the businesses I just described, the fewest number of businesses are in software. And it's because the barriers to entry are higher. Now, vibe coding, things like that, are really easier. More people are coding now. Some engineers there's coding bootcamp plus vibe coding, the people who do components of their job with it. And so it's becoming more democratized. That being said, it's still, between the other 3, way fewer people here compared to the others. But it is shaped this way because once you have product market fit, you can go to the sky because it is the most scalable of all 4 business models once you have it. Again, that's the hard part. So what's the great part about it? Infinite scale, incredibly high gross margins once you have it. If done well, very sticky revenue. The vast majority of people who build software don't have sticky revenue. But if done well, can be incredibly sticky because it's integrated into someone's workflow. And you can have huge enterprise value long term. So why do software companies have such high valuations? One person can exit it because somebody else can own the product, and the customer can have the exact same experience, so there's almost no risk at point of sale if all the other metrics of the business are there. Number 1. Number 2, the components that drive valuation are outside of that core component of software is going to be gross margin and growth rate. So how much gross margin do you have and how quickly you grow? Now, the third element of this growth rate, which almost always happens at scale, so of course you can go from 0 to $10 million very quickly because you sell a lot of people something, margins. But if the customers are leaving, and this is where many people who come from this world, in the information education world, or services world, or even e-commerce world, they say, oh, This shouldn't be hard. I can have an infinite backend. I'll just cobble some stuff together. I'll get an outsourced developer, and we'll go sell the thing. The problem is, this business looks identical to this business, the information business, until you have revenue retention. Here we go. So that becomes the priority in this business. And I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'll tell you how to do that in a second. So let me tell you what sucks about this, because I just told you, oh, the infinite scale, lots of money, huge enterprise value, lots of gross margins. Why does it suck? Very slow start. Founders often quit early. Very high burn in terms of cash before you start having money. And even when you do make money, you're still burning more than you're making, because of how software works, because of its infinite scale, the vast majority of people are not willing to pay a lot of money for it. So if you think about how much even enterprise software costs, it might cost a few $100,000 a year, but compared to the expenses that an enterprise actually spends on other costs, it's nothing, right? It feels high to the software company, but it's nothing compared to how much the enterprise actually spends. And on the consumer level, the amount that you have to do to get $9 a month from a person, speaking from experience, is a lot, right? Think about Netflix, which is a combination of media and kind of software. They have to make they have to entertain the world and make world-class, shows. They have to make The Witcher. They have to make these unbelievable shows just so they can get their $10 a month. And they go to 13 and they're like, I believe it, right? Outrageous, $13. What are these people talking about, right? And so people's willingness to pay, because they know there's almost no incremental cost, is very low. Which means you have to have tremendous volume to actually make real money. Now, the advantage is it can handle that volume, but it sure as hell is hard to get 100 million customers, right? And so it can become very emotionally difficult for this long period of time where it basically never makes money. And so then you have dependency on VCs, or you have to just watch your banking account go down month after month after month in order to maintain as much equity as you can, so you don't dilute yourself to the point where finally it does succeed and you own 4% of the business. And there's more scar stories behind that than I can possibly tell you. So, what's the problem that you have to solve? Number one is you have to survive the early years before product market fit. This is the biggest issue, and this is where marketers basically just can't do something. It's just like, it's incredibly hard for them to do, because they want to market, they want to sell, but in order for this thing to actually become big, you have to make sure that people want it, and keep wanting it. They have to stick. And so not only do they have to buy, they have to keep using it. And so that is the hardest part of doing it. I was listening to an interview by the Dropbox founder, and he was talking about how he used to pay people from Craigslist to come in and just use his product in front of him. And he said the first time they did it, 5 out of 5 people who used it didn't upload a file because they couldn't figure it out. And so that is the kind of just raw work you have to keep doing. And it's like maybe it takes them another 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get the next user flow going, and then they have to get more people in front of them, and then those people still don't figure it out. And you keep doing that until eventually you're like, oh my God, they uploaded a file. And then from there, we're like, okay, well now they didn't come back. Shit. So then we have to fix that loop. And so there's many loops that have to get completely lubricated within the user experience of the business so they can actually deliver core value, and you have to do that as fast as humanly possible. And so within the software world, there was a great interview or a presentation that the head of growth at Facebook said, and he drew this line, and he said, people think growth looks like this. He said, growth actually looks like this. So what does he mean by that? He means that users start, they get activated, and then they never change. That is what growth looks like. Because if you can retain a certain percentage of customers forever, then it means all you do is you can just keep filling in the front end, but then that base level just keeps sticking and growing and growing and growing. And that is how software companies become incredibly valuable. So the biggest problem you have to solve is number one, making a product that people are going to buy, and number two, making sure that they keep buying it, they keep coming back, they keep spending money on it. That's the issue. And so on a consumer side, if you're keeping over 60% by the end of the year from a logos perspective, ideally over 100% from a revenue perspective, that becomes an incredibly valuable business. And so what do I mean the difference between, I'm going to get a little bit software, but logo churn versus revenue? So revenue retention is if I have 10 customers that pay me $10 a month, that means that I'm making $100 a month. A year later, am I still making $100 a month from those initial customers? Now, I might have lost a few of those customers, but if some of those other customers spend more money, because we build our software in such a way that we have the opportunity to spend more, if we have more than $100 from those original customers, we have 100% or greater revenue retention. That's the game you want to be in. And that works the same for consumers as it does for for enterprise sales, for B2B. So all the way through. Now, it tends to be easier to have stick on enterprise customers because they're willing to incur more costs. Switching costs are higher for them, whereas consumers, it's harder. But there's a whole hell of a lot of it. So how do you win in software or in SaaS? Number one, you have to obsess over product quality and customer feedback. You have to be absolutely customer obsessed. So at school, for example, so we have a software platform. We have 20 million users, right? So, so in order to do that, you have to be absolutely militant. And one of the interesting things about this is that it's not that you listen to the customers, that you give customers everything they want, because the customers will hang themselves on their requests, right? And so if you just keep feature adding, you end up building a Frankenstein that no one can make their way through, right? So you have to be incredibly diligent in terms of what features we really think are going to be worth the cost of the user experience that you're adding in complexity. And so complexity is the antithesis of elegance, right? And so when you add more stuff, it almost always adds complexity unless you have exceptional product design, and that you can only do with just tons of loops of iteration, of thinking time and intelligence, and feedback to make it, it's kind of like standing off the edges. And it's the tiny little details that make software work. So two companies can have the same core problem that they're solving, but the level of quality that they can approach it with is so much greater with that. So, next one is in terms of the way you win this. So you have to retain the customers. The next one is you have to have some sort of viral component to the business. So we want to have a loop to this, so that when we bring one customer, they bring 1.1. Right? They get an extra customer in the door for us. Because at the ultimate scale, especially with software that tends to be lower priced, it becomes very difficult to use paid ads as your primary way of acquiring customers. And so you can absolutely use paid ads as a way to get customers, but you need to have some viral loop that over time can continually compound down the cost of acquisition. And so like Facebook would have had to spend gazillions of dollars. They spent for sure a lot of money to acquire customers, but the key component that they knew is that if they could spend to acquire one, they could get two more, or whatever the dollar coefficient was, to come afterwards. So it takes that cost and then divides it by 3 because 2 other customers. But then those customers get 2 other customers, and it continues to proliferate, right? ChatGPT was able to get to 1 million users in a week because of virality, because of strong word of mouth. The other way that I would note is that software is a quality over quantity game when it comes to talent. There absolutely are 10x and 100x to engineers. They also tend to cost 10 or 100x the price. And so you have to be willing to spend a huge amount of money for way better talent. The difficulty is if you've never built software before, to have the perspective from which to make the judgment on that talent. And so this is where you becoming educated, or you being very good, being like yourself, or getting a strong technical co-founder can be important for having a good filter of who really has the chops to code, and always building with the end in mind of like, we need to build this thing with scalable code, good documentation from day one, so that this thing can really rip once we have product market fit and a viral coefficient figured out. And then the loops where we get return loops, we get referral loops, we have upgrade loops, all the different loops that have to be built into the user experience. We remove all the friction from it. And I'll leave you with one final thing from design, which is the way you make an exceptional product is that you cannot actually make something good. What you do is you find a good outcome that everybody wants, that's the easy part, and then you remove all friction between where someone is and them getting that outcome. That is what good software does. And so if you think about all the benefits that come with having a phone, and you remove all the friction associated with that, you get an outcome. That's what Steve Jobs did so brilliantly. He looked at what everyone wants on the phone and said, how can I make it so it's so easy that a child, literally babies, people who don't speak English, can figure out how to use the device and get what they want out of it, and they can do it immediately. That is how good software is built. It's by removing the friction. If you remove everything that sucks about getting what someone wants by default, you will have something good. So reason I wanted to go over these in so much depth is that every business has features and bugs, like I said earlier. And one of the big mistakes that I see businesses do at different levels, and I'm talking not just like, $1 million or 10 million, but I see $30 million, $50 million, $100 million businesses come with similar issues, which is their complaint will be a core feature of the business, and they will say there's something wrong with my business because I'm struggling with supply chain issues. I'm struggling with cash flows. We're scaling too quickly. Or I'm really supply constrained because it's really hard to find good people. Or you know what? Getting customers is tough. Like ad spend is going up and it's costing me more to get customers every single year. It doesn't really work like they used to. Or it's really expensive to this company. We're burning a ton of money and we're just hoping we can make it to our next round. But we're not keeping customers as long as we really need to. We're not hitting our revenue retention goal. Every one of these businesses has features, all right? These are the core hairy problems that make these businesses. And so as soon as you can identify, one, there's nothing wrong with your business, this is the core struggle that creates the model that you chose to get into. And so if you know that, the flip side is that what's hard for you is hard for somebody else, which means that if you conquer that problem, you unlock huge amounts of enterprise value. And so the way I think about this when I'm approaching these problems is, how much enterprise value will I unlock if all of a sudden my service business, I can get 2 people up to speed per month? Well, if I got 2 people up to speed per month, I might add $10 million in enterprise value or $50 million in enterprise value to my business. Okay, well, if that were the case, am I willing to dedicate $100,000 of resources, $500,000 of resources and time to solve that $50 million problem? Hell yeah, I am. And so once you can appropriately appreciate the value of the hairy problem that you're trying to solve, you can then put the right resources towards solving it rather than constantly questioning yourself and thinking, oh, there must be something wrong with my business. And I think just having that level of clarity of there's nothing wrong, this is the problem that I get to solve. This is what the marketplace will literally pay me gobs of money to just figure out. And so by then saying, okay, this is my focal point, and just shutting the rest out, you can then get really clear on, okay, if I have to solve this problem, and I have to thoroughly solve it, not half-assed, not duct tape, this is core to the value creation of my business, that's where you go. Because then you can put all that depth of effort into it and get exceptionally good at recruiting, training, and building amazing people. You get exceptionally good at cash flow management, supply chain management, and logistics and building the brand around it. You get exceptionally good at building the brand and getting very clear on how to separate out what you charge for in terms of one-time and continuity and building in those components of stickiness so that someone who gets educated still wants to stay with you. Or building the most world-class cracked engineering team on the planet so that you can shorten the amount of time that it takes you to find a product market fit and you build a scalable infrastructure so that people actually love the product, they retain revenue, and then this thing compounds and takes off like a rocket. That's the core hairy problem that you have to solve. That's the 10x or 100x value that you as the entrepreneur, this is what we get paid for, this is the game. And so if you haven't started a business and you're like, wow, all of these sound great and all of them sound hard, well, which one is right for you? It depends a little bit. I almost wanted to make a quiz on this for like, what's your personality type? Can you match the business to the personality type? I think you kind of can. Because some personalities are just like more willing to suffer for longer periods of time. They're more, detail-oriented and they're very particular. It's like, well, if I said, hey, I have an engineering person who has some mix of creativity, disregards the opinions of others and is willing to suffer for long periods of time, who's that? Software founder, right? If I said I've got somebody who's like really excited, super promotional, doesn't like details, but just like loves promoting, what's a good business for that person? One of these, right? Good promoters do really well in e-commerce. Good promoters do really well in education. Now, again, you still have to have a good product, like all businesses, but these tend to be more marketing heavy. If I have somebody who's just exceptionally skilled at something and is a very good teacher, ironically, some of the best teachers at stuff can have amazing service businesses. And if you're somebody who loves people, this is a business that you want to be in, right? Because you're going to always have people around you. If you love building culture, if you love, which I actually didn't talk about, but culture is going to be the internal brand of this business. And because you have to get many people to behave in a specific way, brand is how you do that to customers. Culture is how you do that to your employees. And so if you can develop people, and you love pouring into people, and you like leading people. Notice people being the main word for all of this. The three other business models have far fewer. There's people for sure, but far fewer than a service business. Service businesses, you gotta love people in order to do them. And so that should give you a little bit of a mix of which